Hi fam! Today we're going to be talking all about the complexion, and I'm going to give you some of my pro tips. I just want to say before we get started, these are ways that I have found that work for me. I've been doing makeup for 25 years, 25 plus years. I think I'm on year 26. And these are just things I found that work. So if something doesn't work for you, that's fine. If you like to do things a certain way, that's fine. It's kind of like Robert Welch says, there are no rules. It does have theory though. There is a lot of science behind makeup and skincare. I'm just going to share based on those things and again, what I've learned through the years. So I'm going to kind of go in order on how we do our face. And the first thing we're going to talk about is skin prep. So the number one mistake I find with skin prep is that people don't leave enough time for their skincare to absorb before they start applying their base products. So I'm going to go over what I've done today. I only have, I have some gloss on, Fenty Diamond Milk, and then I have my brows on and a little eye base on, my skincare, and that's it. So let me get a little closer. So I do not wash my face in the morning. I have combo skin and I can get very dry if I overly cleanse my face. So I take some like Bioderma micellar water, wipe down my face. Then I go in with a serum. Like right now I've been using the Glow Recipe Watermelon Glow Niacinamide Dewdrops. I think this is good whether you're oily or dry. This is a great product. Niacinamide is also going to help regulate your oil production. So this is a good product, or actually any niacinamide serum. If you have a vitamin C serum, if you're doing your makeup in the morning, vitamin C serum, it's a great time for that. And those usually have niacinamide in it, but if not, you can specifically look for one that has niacinamide. Next up, because I am older, I am 45, I go in with either an eye cream or my first layer of moisturizer under my eyes. So I put a little bit of this on, tap it in, and give that about 5 minutes to soak in. The serum usually soaks in about 5 minutes as well. Next up is a choice you have. Because of the primer product I'm using, this is the point when I would go in with my sunscreen. I use the Nivea Super Water Gel 50 PA+++. I don't like to go lower than a 40 on my SPF, but you do you. Also, women of color, you definitely need SPF. And the actual SPF number has nothing to do with how strong it is. It's about the time that you're covered for. So 50 doesn't mean it's a stronger SPF. It means it will give you longer protection. So the higher the better, because then the longer you can go without having to reapply, which is hard to reapply when you have a full face of makeup on. But there are some sprays, some powders that are SPF that you can touch up with. That being said, also women of color, they still can get skin cancer. And the problem that I learned in aesthetics training was that the outcomes for people of color are worse with skin cancer because they tend to not be diagnosed until it's progressed further along. So it is still very important, no matter what ethnic group, nationality, skin color, that you wear your SPF. It's very important. That being said, this is the time I would go in with my SPF. You can apply your moisturizer and then your SPF, that's fine too. So as my moisturizer and my primer, I am using the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Cream, but you can use whatever moisturizer you like. Now, if you are oily, you do not have to go in with a moisturizer if you don't want to. A nourishing serum might be all you need. Your serum and then your SPF is fine too. But even if you're oily, you still want moisture. You still want hydration because you can be oily and dehydrated. Your skin needs hydration if you're oily, not necessarily, something emollient. That is the first part of the skin prep. Going back to the problem, what I find is people will leave it for just a few minutes and then start putting on their skincare. I would suggest waiting at least 20 minutes before you apply foundation products. So I'm somebody who likes to do my eye makeup anyway. So I put all my skin prep on, I do my brows, I do my eyes, then I start my foundation and my concealer and all that. I'm gonna quick do my eyes and I will be right back. Okay, the second thing I want to talk about is primer. Not everyone needs it. I am using the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Cream, which actually makes a wonderful primer, but not everyone needs one. Let's say I needed some extra moisture. You could use a priming moisturizer, a luminizer, something gripping, or something pore filling. So I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of this pore minimizing primer, but I'm only going to put it in the areas that I need it. Because especially if you have more mature skin, every layer you put on adds up. So I'm going to take this one and just apply it to my pores. Also, if you're someone who has a hard time with makeup sticking to your nose, try not putting any primer there. Okay, let's talk about, I'm going to go through this really quick and I can do a more in-depth tutorial on this if you need to, but we're going to talk about underpainting for a second. From what I've seen, a lot of people are underpainting wrong. Let's talk about the highlighter first. Obviously with underpainting, we're using cream products. And it's not so much with the highlighter that I see people doing things wrong. Right now I am using the Suva Liquid Chrome Illuminating Drops. And I'm using the shade Imperial. So I'm going to take this and apply it to the spots I want highlighted. Yes, you can put it under your eyes. You do want it to be intense because it's going on under your foundation. Okay, I look crazy. So that's all we do for the highlighter. You want to put it on, you want something fairly dramatic because it's going on under your foundation, and you want to just put it in the areas where the light hits. Now, what I've noticed when people underpaint is that they tend to blend it away. You don't want to do that. I'm using the Anastasia stick in Mink. So I'm going to take it on my finger and I'm going to contour. I will do a video on contouring placement because it's honestly different for everybody. It depends on how you want to shape your face. And again, you don't have to do this. I'm just going to use a brush. I just want to leave it dark and soften the edges. Now, keep in mind when you're doing this, what type of foundation you're going to be using. Are you going to be using a skin tint? Are you going to be using a full coverage? This obviously works better with a medium coverage foundation, but you can adjust it to either. So I'm trying to soften the jaw and shorten my chin a little bit. I have a long chin. Now I look and I think, okay, I'm gonna use a medium coverage. So I feel like I need to deepen it up just a little bit because the goal of underpainting is to create shadow underneath your foundation. So yeah, that looks a little crazy. Now's where you would go in with your foundation. So just make sure you are leaving it. Basically what I find is that people blend this all away, then they put their foundation on and it looks like they've done nothing, and so all their hard work is just covered up by foundation. And that may happen today because I'm trying to show you some other things. So on to foundation. I'm going to be using the Kokie Full Cover. To me, it's very, very versatile. I can sheer it out or I can build it up. So with foundation, you want to match to your neck, to this area, not to your hand, not to your wrist, not to anywhere else. And what I usually do is put it about, when I'm testing, I'll put it like right there and see what it looks like. Your face has lots of different shades in it, so it's not the best idea to try to match it to your face. So usually you go to your neck or your chest. Next up, I wanted to say, if you don't shave your face, do not rub like this or buff. because what that will do will be to lift up those fine little hairs on your face, and it creates a weird texture. So just remember that. It doesn't matter. You can use sponge, brush, but one of my pet peeves is when I see people take their foundation and they just put it all over, or they'll drop it on their face. That is how you get a cakey foundation. So I know a lot of you have seen me put my foundation on, and I'm going to show you how I do it. And I think because I underpainted, I'm going to use a sponge. So I start a little bit on my finger, and I start in the areas where I want the most coverage, which is usually down here. You put a little on and shear it out. Go back in. Same thing. And again, this is the goal of underpainting. Now I already have a beautiful contour and highlight. So instead of having to go on top with those same creams, this to me gives a more airbrush finish when you use the underpainting method. Up here. So I'm not building any areas up yet. I want to get through with my first layer. And that's a tip, working in layers. So doing it this way, where you're applying it as you go, it keeps you from using too much product. Okay, so that's my first layer. Now you want to wait about 5 minutes. Okay, so I've let that sink in, and now I'm going to build up where I think I need a little more. Okay. And I barely used a pump. When I've done that the traditional way with this foundation, I've used 2 pumps. So to recap, apply as you go and work in layers. It will give you a much better finish, a less cakey finish, and you will use a lot less product. Next, to make it last, at this point, we're going to go ahead and do a very light spray of setting spray and press that in. That was very light. Concealer. I'm going to use the Anastasia because I haven't used it in a while. Now, again with concealers, I feel like because of this YouTube culture, this influence culture, everyone thinks they need concealer, especially under the eyes. You don't always need concealer under the eyes. For instance, let me show you. I do not have dark circles. I have a tiny bit of darkness out here, but nothing that I couldn't technically use foundation for. So that is my first tip. I'm going to grab just a little bit more of my foundation. I did take that first layer up to the eye. I also have some freckles around my eyes. Sorry if you can see my mirror. So what I'm going to do, take a little bit on my finger and just add a little more foundation under my eyes. And foundation tends to be lighter in consistency. Actually, I'm going to wipe this side off because I want to show you the difference with the concealer. So I don't really need concealer. And all it's doing, if I add the concealer, is adding an extra layer of product, which increases the chance that it's going to become cakey. Now, if you do need concealer, we've all learned to stop doing the triangle. We've all learned to stop going under. The same thing applies with concealer. Start with the minimum amount you need, just in the areas that you need it, and blend it in. Go in with your brush or your sponge. Now, another tip. If you don't have darkness out here and you have crow's feet, don't take your concealer up there and just kind of tap it up that way. The more you add to this area when you smile, if you have crow's feet, it's going to crack. So the concealer does give some brightening. But again, I don't necessarily need concealer on this side. I'm going to add just a little bit just for brightening. And even that was too much. What happens is when you take your finger after you've blended it out and you go back over it, it picks up excess. So tap it, wipe your finger off. So basically, to recap with concealer, some people don't need it. You can always take your foundation up and use that as your concealer. Next would be if you have severe crow's feet and you don't need to lighten that area, don't use it, or just bring it out from underneath to conceal what little bit you do need to conceal. And then tapping with your fingers afterwards and wiping them off, that picks up the excess and it helps it not look as cakey. Now, I do have some other areas that I need to conceal. I have some broken capillaries here, same with my chin. For those that don't know, I'll put it up here in the cards, but I was in a coma and I have scars right here from being on a ventilator so long, so I do like to conceal those areas. Also, if you're older, our mouth gets a little downturn as we get older, and concealing that area can also help kind of lift the corners of our mouth a little bit. So when I'm spot concealing, I'm letting it sit for a few seconds just to dry down a little bit. Another concealer I love for spot concealing is the NARS Soft Matte. This is great for blemishes. I also do use it around my mouth too because it's a drier formula. So it sets down very quickly. I don't know if you can tell, but yeah, it kind of lifts this area. Now, before I go in and set things, I just wanted to throw out a tip. You don't have to set your whole face with a loose powder or a setting powder. You can set with bronzers and blushes. I'm going to go ahead and throw on a cream blush really quick and then I'll show you. I don't know if you can tell, but do you see, before I do that, I just wanted to show you how pretty that highlighter that we put on looks under the foundation. Also that contour. Let me know if you guys would like a video on placement for different face shapes, why certain trends work, why they don't. Now, I honestly don't know how this powder is going to look under my eyes, so we're not going to talk about the product. I'm trying to find a way to use this e.l.f. Foundation powder that I reviewed that did not go well as a foundation. I'll link that here. But I did watch, I can't remember who it was. I watched someone who said it was a good under eye powder, so. My tip for powder is just the old pro makeup artist idea of using a puff, and I'm going to tell you why we like this. So when we're setting under eyes, put a little on your puff, pat it into your hand, and get the excess off. Then you're going to hold your mirror like this and look up. And what that does, I'm getting rid of any creasing that happened. By the way, if your under eyes crease before you get a chance to set them, spray your sponge with some setting spray and it will reactivate your concealer. This is also a good hack for just making it not crease to begin with. Just keep tapping until it's dry and it really helps with creasing. Tap until it's dry. So now you've got your powder, you've tapped a lot off, hold your mirror up, look up, and it flattens out your under eye and just press. You can go back to your hand and get some more. I got a little too much. Everybody makes mistakes. Okay, it's gonna look a little crazy because it's powder foundation, but as you can see, there's no creasing, no crepey skin. It just looks a little more natural. Now, the other thing, if you have a problem with your product settling into fine lines, what I like to do, man, that powder is really light too, sorry. Once again, same idea with the setting spray. Go into those areas where you get settling. Do the same thing with the Charlotte or whatever powder you're using, whether it's loose or pressed, and set your lines. And the less powder, the better. You just want enough to set the product. And that's gonna help it not crinkle and crack and settle in. And it's not gonna make it worse because we've used a lot less product. Okay, I should not have used that e.l.f. Pretty heavy. So now I'm gonna set these areas where I have a little blush and a little bronzer and contour. I'm gonna set with bronzer, and I'm using the Flower Beauty Heat Wave bronzer. Sometimes I like this bronzer because it's very cool, so I can go into just the little bronzer or the little contour colored bit right there, and if I need to contour a little bit, I can do that. I'm giving you the full beat today, just so you know. It is a very dramatic makeup, but I'm trying to show you some techniques. So now I'm gonna set the blush area with some powder blush. I think I'm gonna use this little Lottie London ombre blush I got in this like corally shade. It's so pretty. Take this little duo fiber brush from Sigma. Man, that glow is still coming through, ain't it? I like a bold blush. I've also been liking that kind of sunburnt look. And now, this is something I've always done. And actually, I was so happy when I saw Mel Thompson, we miss you, Mel, when I saw her do this. She is truly missed. But we're gonna buff. So I'm taking some Radiant powder. This is the Rare Beauty, I don't know. It's the Rare Beauty powder. But also the e.l.f. Halo Glow works really well. I have that. So you get your powder, get it worked into your brush, and then you're just gonna, I know I said don't buff, but that's with complexion product, or with foundation. Very, very lightly. You're just gonna use this powder to blend everything in very lightly. There we go with that. That can really help if you've overdone your blush, if you've overdone your contour, or if you just need to meld everything together. And I feel like we do very much have a glow from that liquid highlighter underneath. But I think I want a little more, so I'm gonna go in with the Milani, this powder duo. This is more of a blush topper for me. I'm just gonna buff a little bit of that in. And finally, we're gonna set the good dose of setting spray. And then we're gonna press in. So I'm gonna finish up my eyes, put on some lips, and I'll be right back. Okay, everybody, I'm back and I finished up the eyes. I put on a lip. This is, I'll let you know in the comments box below. I believe it is, I know it's a ColourPop liner and a Tarte lip pencil and then the Fenty Diamond Milk over it again. But this is the finished look. So it's been about 45 minutes to an hour since I applied everything, and there's no cracking. There's no creasing, even in my deep forehead lines. And just to point out too, with the underpainting, if you want to leave it, you don't have to add all these steps. These are just, I was trying to get as many complexion tips in as I could. So even if it's just adding the liquid highlight under your foundation, adding the contour, you know, doing the underpainting, the contour under your foundation, or even if it's just the concealer tips. So you don't have to do a full beat. I just did one so that I could show you all of the tips. All right, well, I hope this was helpful. Let me know if there was anything in here you haven't heard before, because I feel like at some point I've heard most of these, but you know, I haven't been on YouTube that long, so I don't know. But I hope it added value to you. I hope it added value to your makeup application process. And if you would like me to do any deep dives into any other application, or I've done a eyebrow tutorial, which I may need to update soon because I've changed a little bit. I've done an eyebrow tutorial. I've done some tips on eyes. If you would like an in-depth eye tutorial, I don't know if people like tutorials anymore, but on how to do a halo eye. And I do have very, very hooded eyes. So mine are gonna be hooded eye friendly because I have hooded eyes. But y'all just let me know. I'm here to help you. So let me know what you'd like to see, and I will be back soon. Thank you so much for watching and for sharing these. It helps me so much. Make sure you hit the like button before you go, and subscribe if you haven't already. We would love to have you around here. We're one big, happy, supportive family. I love you all so, so much, and I will see you soon. Bye. I can help you out.